Have you ever been confused about how to take a window screen out from its window? Have you ever broken a screen in the process? Now in my work, I come across a lot of broken screens, and I believe I know the reason why there are so many that get broken. The main reason is people don't know how to take them out. Now in this video, I'm going to focus on two particular types of windows. Sliding windows, like the one behind me, and awning windows. Awning windows are the ones that wind out. Now we're going to start with sliding windows. Now when you come to the thing to know about sliding windows is that the screens, even though they virtually always face out, sometimes they come out on the outside and sometimes they come out on the inside. So it can be a little bit tricky to try and work out which way they come out. Now sometimes you may be able to get them out both ways, but even so, there's normally one best way, one proper way to get the screen out. And there's a very simple way of determining that. So we're going to start with this window here. I'm going to see if I can get it out from the outside. So, I mean, if you're ever in front of a sliding window, you want to try and take the screen out, I would go do what I'm doing, go to the outside first, see if you can get it out from the outside. Now the way to do that is you're going to try and expose two edges. You're going to try and expose the bottom edge and one of the side edges. If you can do that, then you can expose one of the corners and you can pull that corner out. Once you've pulled one corner out, it shouldn't be too hard to pull the rest of the screen out. So I'm going to start by pushing this screen up, and you can see it actually goes up a long way, and I've actually exposed that bottom edge, the whole bottom of the screen. However, I can't get the screen out until I get one of the sides can also come out. So I'm going to try pushing it to the left. It's not moving. I'm going to try, in fact, I can see the edge of the screen, but it is not coming out. It's still encased within the frame of the window. I'm going to try pushing it the other way, same deal. There's not much flexibility there. So if that's what you discover, then I wouldn't try taking the screen out from the outside. That is how people break screens. If someone was to come along here, expose the bottom side, and then pull it out and bend it, in the process bend it to get the whole screen out, to get one of the sides out, that is one way of breaking the screen. And I think that's the main reason there are so many broken screens on sliding windows. So what we'll do now is we'll go inside and see if we can get this screen out from the inside. Okay, here we are on the inside, same window. All right, so we couldn't get the screen out on the outside, so I'm going to try getting it out from the inside. Now, the first thing to do to try and get the screen out from the inside is to lift the sliding sash out. Now, a lot of people don't realise that the sliding sash of the window lifts out. I've had many situations at the homes of customers where they've noticed me do that and been surprised that it comes out. Now, sometimes they actually don't lift out, and we'll go into the reasons for that in a moment, but let's see if we can lift this one out. Okay, so you just push it up so the bottom comes out, and then you can lift the whole thing out. And now walking back to the screen, I can see the left side of the screen, the edge of that. I can see the edge of the right side of the screen. So I know that screen comes out from the inside. Now let's take a closer look at something. Before I get the screen out, there is something to draw your attention to. Okay, so let's get really close to the right side of the frame. Now over here, if you look close, you can see a piece of plastic. This is a piece of plastic that I can pivot, I can rotate it, and that you can see it holds the screen in tight. Now, when you're coming to take this type of screen out, a screen on this type of window, look for something like that. Obviously, to take the screen out, you want that, out of the way. Otherwise, it's going to block you from taking the screen out. So it's just a simple matter of lifting it up and pulling it out. And of course, to put it back in, it's just as simple. You just fit it back into the slot. Okay, I'll take it back out. Now I'm going to show you something. Okay, let's take a close look at the frame. This is with the sliding sash removed and the screen removed. Now if you look on the left side here, you can see that the screen fits into that slot there. You can see that there is more space on the inside than on the outside. And if you look on the right side, you can see it's the same. On the outside, there is much less space to take the screen out compared to the inside. That is, I would say, confirmation that the screen comes out from the inside. However, it is only after you've lifted the window out and perhaps lifted the screen out that you can get that confirmation. So, and another thing is that that particular test is not completely foolproof and conclusive. So I wouldn't use this as the method of determining how to take the screen out. I would use the method I showed you at the start of this video, is see if you can take the screen out from the outside. Okay, now I'm going to put the screen back in and I'm going to put the window back in, and I'm going to show you something else. So what happens if you decide to determine that the way the screen comes out is on the inside, you come inside, you try and lift the sliding sash out and it doesn't come out. Now, there's a few possibilities as to why the sliding sash doesn't come out. One possibility is that there is actually an anti-lift block at the top of the window frame, and that is actually for safety and security purposes. It's actually there to prevent you from lifting the sash out. In such cases, all you might need to do is simply slide the sash past that anti-lift block in order to lift it out. However, there are occasions where there is actually more than one anti-lift block, and in order to create enough clearance, to give you enough space, enough width to get the sash out, you might have to remove one of those anti-lift blocks. It may involve unscrewing it also, not in this particular case. In other cases, it's not actually an anti-lift block attached to the frame of the window, but two anti-lift clips attached to the sides of the sliding sash itself. In these situations, you will need to loosen or unscrew those clips in order to be able to lift the sash out. When you loosen or unscrew them, you'll be able to push them down, and that will enable you to lift the sash out. But also, please be aware that there are situations where there is no adjustment that can be made. A good tip is, if it's not coming out easily, maybe it's coming out on one side but not the other. Sometimes you just slide it along at different points, and there might be a point where both sides come out. Or you can pull one side out, slide the window across to that same point where one side came out, to get the other side to come out. So we'll try a few. See, this is what I was talking about. The left side's coming out, the right side's not coming out. So I'll just slide it along, and it comes out. There you go. That might be all you need to do. Just slide it along until it comes out. On this particular window, I was able to get the right sash out, but only by sliding it back and forth along the track to find those points where I was able to lift it out. When it came to the left sash on the same window, I was completely unable to get it out regardless of where I slid it to. And so even on the one window, I was able to get one sash out and I was unable to get the other out. And sometimes that's the way it is. But simply because of movements in the house over time. The house moving over time, preventing you from getting the sliding sash out. Sometimes you can use a screwdriver or something to yank the screen out, the sliding sash out. But sometimes if you don't want to do damage, if you don't want to risk doing damage to your frame, you may not want to do that. And sometimes it's quite difficult for them to lift them out, even though they're meant to come out. So in those situations, see if you can get the screen out without lifting the sliding window out. Sometimes you can. It often depends on how flexible the screen is. So I'm going to see if I can take this screen out without taking the window out. Okay, so obviously push the sash as far as it will go, at least maximize the space you have. And then try and get the screen out firstly on this side, firstly on the side opposite to where the window is, the panes of glass are. I've exposed the right bottom side. I can pull out the left bottom side and I can push the screen out. Now there's enough flexibility to get it out. So on this particular window, you can lift the screen out without lifting the sliding sash out. But I still think that lifting the sliding sash out is the best way. And of course, if you can get it out, normally you can put it back in. Oh. If you have tried to lift the sliding sash out and for the reasons that we've discussed you couldn't get it out, and then you've tried to lift the screen out anyway and you've found that you can't lift it out, or feel that you are going to risk, there simply isn't enough space with which to get it out, there isn't enough flexibility, and by trying to get it out you might break it. You might then conclude that it may be best to leave things as they are and just clean the window as best you can without lifting the screen out and without lifting the sliding sash out. That may be where you're left. You may go back outside and try a second time to lift it out on the outside, and you might later reconsider whether it's worth trying to force the sliding sash out. But don't feel that it's your fault, that you're doing something wrong. Sometimes these situations do pop up, and it just means that you can't clean the outside of the sliding sash. If you can slide the sash open, you can't lift it out, you can't lift the screen out, you can still clean the screen, you can still clean the inside of the sliding sash. It just means you can't really properly clean the outside of the sliding sash, that's all. So now let's look at some clips of other windows and other screens. We'll continue with sliding windows, and then later on we'll move to awning windows. Now this is a good example of a sliding window where the screen in fact does come out on the outside. And one clue is actually that tab on the side. Now what you do, if you don't know if it comes out on the outside or exactly how, is what you should do is try and push the screen to one side and then the other. I'm going to try pushing it to the right, and by doing that you can see that I've exposed the left side of the screen, particularly at the bottom. Sometimes a screwdriver is actually useful to help you sort of get that corner of the screen out. So I've got the bottom left out. I can pull it a little bit to the left to get the bottom right part of the screen out, and then I can push it down. And as you might be able to see, if I change your position, in fact I'll get you even closer. Here are the plastic tabs that were holding sort of the screen tight, but when pushed are quite flexible and allow you to move the screen in such a way that you can expose the side on the opposite side and pull it out. In this case, there's one at the top, one at the bottom, and only on one side. Sometimes there are windows where you get these plastic bits on both sides, but normally it's only the one side where they're actually flexible. And now to put the screen back in, it's a very simple matter. So firstly, so you go to the side which has the flexible rubber, put that so the top right corner in, push it in, then you can push the top left corner in, push the screen up, bottom right corner, bottom left corner, and it sits nicely in place. These screens here are designed to fit in tightly with no additional support. So it's just a matter of, in fact they're so old that sometimes you have to push really hard to get them out. You normally lift up, so the bottom bit comes up over the groove that it sits in, and then you sort of pull it out. And sometimes you have to pull pretty hard. And so to stick it back in, it's just the reverse. Put in the top first, push it up high, and then put the bottom in and push it down. Okay, these ones are a different design again, but like some of the other designs, you remove the screens by pushing them to the side. So I'll give you a close-up, but I'll get it off first. Now, as you saw, they're kind of tricky to get out, and a little screwdriver comes in very handy, especially when they're old. Now, this particular design, they have these steel bits on one side, two on that side, one towards the top, one towards the bottom, and these sort of hold the screen in. I'll show you, there's a little slot in the frame of the window, and that's where they slot in. Now, when people put them the wrong way around, they end up extremely difficult to get out, because you have to sort of get your screwdriver in and try and pull that steel thing in. So it's very important with these that you put them back in the right way, with the steel bit going where the little channel is on the side, and I'll show you. See, that's the groove on the right side of the window. It's a pretty deep groove, and it's the side of the screen that has those steel pieces that goes in there. If you look on the other side, there's a groove here also. It's not as deep, and there's what looks to be a groove within a groove, within the groove. So look at that. I'm convinced that when people see the groove within the groove, they think, oh, that's where the steel piece must go. And so they put the screen in the wrong way round. And when they do that, they're very hard to get out. So I don't know why that groove within the groove is there. It doesn't seem necessary to me. And in fact, I don't think it even lines up really with the steel bit anyway. So don't be confused by that. That's not the side where the part of the screen, the side of the screen with the steel bits, do not go in on that side. They go in on the side with the much deeper groove, much deeper. Now I've cleaned the screen, so I'm going to stick it back in, And these screens, this particular design, screen and window, or on this particular design of screen and window, the screens go back in very, very easily, especially or only if you put them in the right way. So to repeat again, the side that has the steel pieces, that goes in on the right side, which has the deeper groove. Okay, so to put them back in, you push the side with the steel bits into the groove, and then it's just easy to knock the left side of the screen in, and then maybe push it again, push a little bit to the left so it's held in firmly. So that little groove on the left is certainly necessary. Now, as you saw at the start, I struggled a little bit to get that screen out. A little tip, with this particular design, they're really easy to get out from the inside. So go inside, open the window and just pop the screen out. Just push it towards the groove side, the big groove side, and just push it out. Okay, keep an eye on that screen, the one above the ladder. I'll go inside and push that screen out. These get really tight when they get old, so sometimes it's hard to get them out. You know, even once you push one side out, to pull it out of the groove is really hard. So sometimes it's good to do that from the outside. Push it out from the inside, pull the whole thing out from the outside, which I'll do now, as far as this one goes. You have now seen a selection of sliding windows, and you've learned that sometimes the screens come out on the outside, sometimes they come out on the inside. You've also learned the approach to take in order to work out on which side the screen comes out. Now, on that last clip, you also saw an example of a window where, even though the screen came out from the outside, it was easier for me to go inside, pop one side of the screen out from the inside, and then go back outside to completely pull the screen out. Now, you also saw that sometimes, even though screens come out from the inside and you are required to lift the sliding sash out in order to get the screen out, there will be times where, for reasons completely beyond your control, you won't be able to lift the sliding sash out, not without a lot of trouble and potentially doing damage. And if you cannot lift the screen out without lifting the sash out, it may be better to leave things as they are. Now, before we move on to awning windows, there is one last thing I'd like to add about sliding windows. And that is, I have come across designs of sliding windows, fairly modern designs, where they are designed in such a way that you lift the screen out from the inside without any requirement whatsoever to lift the sliding sash out. I think this will be the case possibly more and more because of double glazed windows and triple glazed windows, which are very heavy and difficult to lift out. All right, so now we're going to move to awning windows. Now, awning windows are a different ball game to sliding windows. Awning windows also get broken screens. I come across quite a number of broken screens on awning windows. Probably not as many, but I do come across quite a few. But the reason that screens on awning windows are broken is different. Now, on awning windows, the issue is not on which side to take the screen out, because it's very obvious that on awning windows, the only way the screen's going to come out is on the inside. The issue on awning windows is there's a blind at the top, often, and there's a winder at the bottom. And so they restrict the space that you need to get the screen out. And when people force the screen out and they bend the screen, because of the blind and because of the winder, they end up breaking the screen. So let's take a closer look at an awning window. Now, when it comes to awning windows, the windows that wind out, you don't have the issue of trying to figure out, which side of the window does the screen come out on, because it's pretty obvious that it's got to come out from the inside. There's no way you can get it out on the outside. But there is a different issue that comes up with these windows, with these screens on awning windows, and that is often you've got a blind in the way. And you see, to get the screen out, you've got to lift it up over this, this winder. Now, here we've got two screens. One at the top where you have a blind, one at the bottom where there's no blind in the way. So it's quite easy to get the one at the bottom out. Now, the one at the top is going to be a different story. Sometimes you can still get them out. It depends on various factors. It depends on how flexible the screen is, because you do have to bend it. Often you have to bend it. Also, another factor is how wide the screen is. The wider the better. The wider it is, the more flexible it's going to be. So we'll give this one a go. Obviously, you rotate that so that's down, and that's going to help you out. So you push it up as high as it can go, and that might give you enough. You might be able to lift it over the winder. So here the winder is actually preventing it from coming out, but only by a few millimeters. So in this sort of a situation, you may be able to bend the screen over the winder without damaging the screen and without marking the top of the winder. And if you've never done this before, it's going to be very hard for you to judge when you can do that, when you can get away with it. Since I've been doing this for so long, I'm fairly confident that I can bend that over. I'm still very careful and slow. I only very gently increase the level of force, and I pull out of the procedure if I can sense that no, actually this might break. So I'll give this a go. Okay, so it has come out. I haven't broken it. I haven't marked the winder, and so sometimes that can work, and of course I've got to put it back after cleaning the window, cleaning the screen. I've got to put it back, so I've got to get it back over that. Now, something that's very important to know is that, because there are situations where you can't actually lift the screen over the winder, and in those situations there are two main strategies that you can use to get the screen out. One is you remove the blind. And when you remove the blind, in this case, these roller blinds, you might have to remove, sometimes you might have to remove brackets as well. In this case, you wouldn't need to remove brackets because the brackets are sort of beyond the edge of the frame there. And sometimes another option is actually to unscrew the winder, and then by doing that, you can pull it out, and then you've got enough space to get the screen out. So now, which of the two strategies you use, I guess you just have to figure out which one's going to be less trouble. There are different types of blinds. There are some blinds that I just don't know how to get them out. These ones are quite easy to get out. And also depends on whether, how much trouble you have trying to unscrew the winder. So there are lots of different windows, lots of different designs. But most of the time I can, by using one strategy or the other, when a blind prevents you from getting a screen out, I can use one strategy or the other and take the screen out. Okay, time to put it back in. Okay, beautiful, that's done. Of course the other one, but that's a piece of cake. Thank you for making it to the end of this very long video. I made this video in an attempt to make it easy for people to understand how to take screens out and put screens back in, and hopefully reduce the chances that they will break in the process, that the screens will be broken in the process. Do keep in mind though that sometimes it is very difficult not to break screens. Aluminium screens get brittle over time. If the screens are made of wood, well, wood can split very easily. So they are tricky to handle. But I hope that by following some of my advice, some of my tips, I've really helped you out. And so please leave any comments, subscribe to my channel and like the video. Thank you.